Hi, I'm Kevin Champeny, and I'm a mosaic artist from New York. So about a year ago, my business partner got a request for a very large-scale logo for Pan Am, created primarily out of aircraft. And it was actually for the grandson of Juan Trippe, the founder of Pan Am, who essentially created modern aviation as we know it.
Pan Am pioneered the ocean crossings. They were the first commercially over the Pacific and the Atlantic in the 30s, and the first to have the jets in 1958 with the 707. Our founder, Juan Trippe, was responsible for the development of the 747.
And the 747, of course, was the biggest thing that ever came along. It was a huge airplane and changed not just the culture of aviation, but changed the culture of international travel. And it shrank the world, which is probably Pan Am's most enduring legacy.
It's been 30 years since Pan Am went under. We still have a camaraderie among Pan Am ex-employees. Hard to say ex-employees. We still feel like we are a family.
So every piece begins with a tremendous amount of research, and this is in order for me to best create a piece in my style that best exemplifies sort of what the client is looking for. He really wanted a celebration of Pan Am and a celebration of their history and their glory. So to give you an idea of the overall scale of this piece, it's 4.5 feet in diameter and has about 20,000 individual castings. And so I grabbed different planes from different eras to sort of create more of a story, an overall story of how they flew and what they flew all the way into the modern times. To add a little bit more texture and interest, I added luggage and stewardesses and even drinksters. There's a lot of pins and logos. There's a lot of nostalgic pieces that if a true fan and lover and even someone who worked for Pan Am saw the piece, they could actually pull things out that they might recognize and sort of have some personal kind of attachment or feeling for. There were so many challenges in this piece, and part of it was actually just the shape of the pieces that I was working with. And with this, I had to sort of counteract the shadows that were created from the large wings sort of jutting out from the piece. And they actually stick out almost 4 inches from the surface. And I have the pieces actually spilling over the edge of the frame to really give it this sense of just mass and fullness. It takes about 8 or 9 shades of the same color to be able to create a smooth transition. And there's something about doing the layering of these pieces that I'm just in love with. So a lot of my peers have called me sort of obsessed, and they're right. I really have to be involved in every aspect of the artwork, so much so that I actually built the frame for this piece. So I built a custom jig and actually hand bent the wood for the frame. I sculpted and created all the masters. I made my own molds. I hand matched all the dyes and the colors and poured all the castings, finished each and every single casting, and then hand placed every single one. So, you know, it sounds crazy, but maybe I am a little crazy, but that's what I have to do in order to create these pieces. And I think it takes a little crazy to be able to dive so deep into each one of these to make sure that the piece is exactly what it should be.
delegates, and fellow Americans, I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
We will not build a wall. Instead, we will build an economy where everyone who wants a good job can get one.
The wall just got 10 feet higher. It's true.
As I say, crooked Hillary, crooked Hillary. She's as crooked as they come.
A man you can bait with a tweet is not a man we can trust with nuclear weapons.
She's been proven to be a liar on so many different ways. This is just another lie.
When I think about Trump, I get allergic.
Don't worry about that, baby. I love babies.
I am sick and tired of the negative, dark, divisive, dangerous vision and behavior of people who support Donald Trump.
We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. God bless you and good night.
Hi, I'm Kevin Champeny, and I created the famous gummy bear chandelier used on the iCarly show. So I created the gummy bear chandelier, and it ended up on the iCarly show. I had built it in my studio because I just have this idea, and I just love the idea of gummy bears, and I wanted to build a chandelier out of it because I thought, how cool would that be, you know? And so I built it. And then a friend of mine owned a store in Tribeca and said, can I hang it up in there? And I said, absolutely. And so we took it down there, hung it up, and a few weeks go by, and the producer for iCarly walked into the store and fell in love with it. And he's like, I have to have this. So he bought it and shipped it to LA. The steps involved in creating a gummy bear chandelier are pretty complex. I started drawing up some different designs and ideas, and I came up with one that worked where the bears were suspended. And so I sculpted a tiny little gummy bear and started making molds and casting 11,500 gummy bears. And so each and every single gummy bear is hand tied onto a string, and those strings are then gathered and then hung on a grid to create a sphere. And so it's, if you've ever built a ball out of Legos, it's kind of the same idea, using a square object to create a round object, but it's done in three-dimensional hanging space. It's an incredible piece, and it took months to design and create. And it's quite a process. So if you're ever thinking about making one on your own, it will take you quite some time. And I know people have tried, and I don't know if anyone's completed one yet, but yeah, it's a pretty cool process. People can buy the gummy bear chandelier from me. I do sell them. I sell them in multiple sizes and custom sizes. Because they are bespoke, they are handmade, so it's best to contact us for pricing and availability and timing to figure out when one of these can be given to you. So I still do make them, and I make them quite often actually, in just about every color and color scale. So they can be ombre effects, so you could have something that starts clear and ends red. They can be color changing. So I do just about every type and style that you can imagine now. And even though the size that was on the iCarly show, which is about 32 inches in diameter, it's a big piece. And I do larger and smaller. And so yeah, just contact me at info@kevinchampeny.com and we can help you with pricing, availability, and any questions that you may have about it. The Gummy Bear chandelier for the show that was on the iCarly show, I don't have. It was purchased by the producer, and the original that was on the show was, I believe he took that actually, once the show was over, so he actually owns that. Recently I was able to create a duplicate version of it, and I think 18 smaller ones that were shipped all over the world, and for the iCarly giveaway. So of course I don't have it. I mean, I have my own versions of it because I've been building them ever since in multiple sizes and shapes and everything. So, but the original I do not have anymore. I wanted to become a mosaic artist out of a need to combine my love of drawing, sculpting, photography, painting into one cohesive, interactive piece of art. So the projects that I'm currently working on are vast. I work on about 7 or 8 pieces at a time, and I have to do that to allow sort of my head to refocus, if that makes any sense. The pieces are so intense, and there's so many parts and processes involved in every single one that it helps my mind to actually work on multiples. I've done projects for Drake and Messi, and the King of Saudi Arabia wanted some pieces, and it's exciting to be able to do these projects and share them with people. My role as a mosaic artist involves a tremendous amount of steps. It's very process-centric. So I have to come up with an idea first, and so the idea is twofold. It is, what is the image, and what is the image made out of, and how do they interact with each other? Once I have that nailed down, I then have to start the process of creating the image. So sometimes I paint the image, I'll draw it, I'll use my own photographs and whatever reference material I can find to create the image that I had, or that I was thinking about. And then comes the sculpting process. That's a little bit more intense. And so then I do a lot of research on these pieces. And if I'm doing like a portrait, for example, I will research as much as I can about the person or people that I'm working on to create images and sculptures based on sort of their life and sort of meaning around maybe what they've done. And once all the sculpting is done, I then create my own molds. And so I hand mix my own silicone and pour molds in a method that I designed to allow me to cast at the volumes that I have to cast at. Because some of the pieces that I work on have in excess of 80,000 pieces. And so after the molding process is done, from there I start matching resin, hand matching resin in anywhere up to 60 colors, depending on how complex the image is. And then I do batch casting, where I'll cast several hundred to several thousand of each piece. So we're now, months into this process. So after the casting is done, they're all sorted by color and laid out. And then the laborious process of hand gluing each and every single piece on. And this is where the mosaic process really sort of comes in. The advice that I would give people who were looking to do what I do, or to become an artist or a creative in some form, is to never quit. No matter how hard it gets, is to keep doing it, keep driving, fail as much as you can and learn from it. Use that failure to help learn from and to create more work from, because that's where I find most of my knowledge base is, from the failures that I've had. I said, okay, that didn't work, so I'll pivot, I'll try this, I'll do this. Just don't quit. And I think it's very easy to get fatigued and tired and demoralized, especially in the art world, where you're constantly told no. If you're interested in what I'm doing or are curious about what I'm doing next, follow me. That's the easiest way. Go to the website, www.kevinchampeny.com, or at Kevin Champeny on Instagram or TikTok. The projects that I've been doing are just growing and increasing. I've had the opportunity to work for some really exciting people. It's exciting to be able to do these projects and share them with people. The bank on it is one of the new pieces that I've created. It is a story about cryptocurrency. And I was discussing with my business partner about it, and he's been very heavily involved in cryptocurrency for years and just sort of fascinated by just the idea of it, the complete democratization of money.
I met Kevin when I was a consultant at an aerospace company. He was working at the time as kind of a jack of all trades, a mechanic. Some days working on sophisticated, high-tech equipment, machinery. Other days painting aircraft, decaling and striping. Everything he did was such high quality. He told me that he was really an artist, and I was surprised to hear that. He showed me some of his work. I thought it was fascinating. I went over to his studio 2 days later, and I told him to quit his job to go and become a full-time artist. I first learned about cryptocurrencies back in 2012 when my friend and visionary in the space, Matt Rozak, returned from Singapore to tell me what he had found.
A dear friend of mine in Asia said you should check this out. For the first time, we've got this medium of money that's digital, that's not centralized, and is a real invention in Bitcoin. I was first introduced to Kevin, and the concept of doing a crypto art, Bitcoin art piece was mentioned to me. I said, this is great, love to be a part of it. And he took that so much further than I could have imagined.
It was kind of neat to introduce Bank on It at India House in New York City at what is I believe one of the first commodity trading houses in New York and quite possibly the country. And it just felt very apropos to have all of this history just sort of stacked on top of each other, because the piece itself is created from coins from many ages. I mean, some of them go back a couple hundred years.
It's his largest work. It's the work that's been most time-consuming, and I think it's the level of detail he put into imprinting and developing all these tokens that represent this mosaic of Bitcoin is super cool.
To actually create a cryptocurrency-themed piece about money and accept cryptocurrency as payment for it, I just thought, again, just sort of wrapped up the whole story. Kevin Champeny. I'm an artist. I actually started drawing before I could speak. Everything that I've ever done, every job that I've ever had is sort of based in art, drawing or design or sculpture. The work that I do now with the mosaics was an opportunity for me to meld my love of sculpting and painting and drawing into one piece, into a piece that will allow people to view it from different angles, to create a conversation with each piece. What is the image? What is the image made out of? And why does that matter? I don't put out, this is why I made it. This is what I felt when I did it. And for me to tell you and say, hey, this is what this piece means, I've already clouded and basically directed your mind into a thought. I used to teach grade school students how to paint fruit, which is really fun, because in your mind you think a slice of orange is just a slice of orange, but it's not. We would look at it very closely. We'd look at the seeds, the water droplets. There's probably 1,000 colors in one little square inch of a piece of orange, and that's what I was teaching them, is to look at how these pieces are broken down. And that's how I see images. They're just constantly broken down to me. Defiance. So Defiance is one of the newest pieces that I created. And so the process behind that for me is a lot more fun than the actual image and sort of the meaning behind it. The image just seemed perfect right now, especially in today's environment, and what he represents and means to people. And I wanted to create a piece that everyone could look at and go, oh yeah. I didn't want to do anything overtly anti or for. That's not what my pieces are meant to be. They're meant for you to look at it and make that decision yourself. And Trump was a great one because he is so polarized. And just the idea of him as our president means so much to everyone for different reasons. And it's great because that's where we are today. That we have these visceral reactions and feelings, and so with that piece, I wanted to do just sheer, utter defiance, because that's what it is. always trying to make it quiet, but I don't think I can ever shut that off. It's the desire to make stuff, to repurpose, to create, simply to create. And that noise is what is constant. I see it in everything. I see shapes, I see colors, I see everything as a composition, and I want to break it down. I want to remake it. That's what I don't think I'll ever be able to stop, is that desire, that want. I won't be able to stop the noise. And I like that. I've never really thought of it as a choice, maybe I'll make something today. It's the decision not to make something is usually what it is at this point. Art is the one thing that I have complete control over everything in my life. Everything else, it happens, I can't control it, I just sort of allow it to deal with it. Art is the only thing that I can control. The idea of the starving artist was so prevalent growing up, and I didn't believe it. How could the one thing that I want to do and need to do every day be the thing that causes me to starve? Why can't I, as an artist, be compensated to create dreams, to create fantasy, to do whatever I can possibly do? And that's what I've been trying to do for, almost 40 years now, and I think I'm doing it. So this is the first fish. This is the first one I ever made, the sculpture that started everything. So every single fish that I have cast is based off of this one tiny sculpture. I wanted to create that conversation between the objects that make up the pixels and the picture that the pixels create. I wanted to create that tension of what it is and what it's made out of. The skull with flowers, it's called What Remains. It's such a cliche theme, life and death. And I wanted to see if I could do it in a different way, do it in a way that made sense to me. And so it just becomes a cycle. Every time you move away from it, the skull becomes clearer. As you get closer, the field of flowers becomes clearer. That's where the tension starts sort of hitting you. And it's like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be, So this one, it's a big piece. It's the most detailed translucent piece that I've ever done. Translucent pieces are a little bit more complicated. I work over a photograph because the color telegraphs through the pieces. And so what I'm able to do is shoot anywhere from 10 to 30 colors. So if they're thicker, they're darker, they're thinner, they're not. And so when you start overlaying them, they change color. So it becomes this whole challenge and this puzzle of laying the base color down and then the gradation and then laying on top of it to blend it all in. This has actually been a lot of fun to do. And because of this piece, I now have different ideas for other pieces that I want to do. So everything that I learn, every new project makes every other project that I've done more interesting. It's like, oh, I could take this further. I could combine them. And that's what the mosaic work allowed me to do, is combine my love of drawing and painting and sculpture and design and fabrication. And I'm just touching the tip of what I can do with it and what I can do with the idea. But let's just say something's not going to step in the way and go, ooh, this is neat, let's try this. I think that the dream, and I've heard this from other artists and creative people, and they're the only group of people that I found that wish that they could never die, because they have so many ideas that they'll never be able to get through. And it's such a shame. And that's what it is for me. If I could just live forever, I probably would never be bored. because I'd be able to explore every idea that I could ever do, ever.
Our next guest is Kevin Champeny, and I'm so excited to have him as a guest on my show. Literally, I was walking down the street, I knocked on a door, and the rest is our personal history. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin. Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
So I'm walking down the street, Long Island town, and I'm stopped in my tracks by your artwork in a window. And then all of a sudden it said, gallery by appointment only, but you came through the front door and you invited me into your gallery.
Well, it was kind of, I was doing a photo shoot that day, and because we do a lot of social media for the work, because it's the way that we sort of get it out there. And so any time that I'm out on the floor, people walk by and it's like, okay, I'll open the door, maybe. But I don't always do it, so it was kind of cool that it just happened to be right at that moment.
I'm so intrigued by your process and the materials that you work with. First of all, you're self-trained, but you started out in aviation as a mechanic.
Yep.
Okay, so can we walk through the journey? Plus, there's so many fascinating things about you. You were deaf for many years, and okay, I don't even know where to start or where to unpack this, but I guess let's start with your being a mechanic.
Right, so I was working for a boutique aerospace company, and I was building unmanned solar-powered stratospheric flying aircraft. There's a lot of pieces to that. So, and I was doing everything from building the planes, the avionics, and then even the areas that we were working in, like the refinishing entire airplane hangars and doing all that, and managing the sort of the construction, doing everything, and even down to the working with the carbon fiber with electron scanning microscopes to figure out sort of the laying of the fiber. And so I was doing everything. It was just kind of a weird job. Very intense. Yeah. Every day was a whole new thing. And so the owner of the company, I'd worked several projects with him before, and he's like, you need to be on my team. It's like, okay, I have bills to pay. And it was something new, and so I did that, and that's sort of where I met my business partner. I was redressing one of his planes, and he asked me where I went to school as a mechanic, and I laughed, and I was like, I'm not a mechanic. I said, I'm an artist,
Wow.
That's what I do. And asked where I lived, and found out that he was my neighbor, essentially, lived next town over, and he came to the studio, and he was like, this is incredible. Do you show this? I was like, no, this is for me. I'm developing and creating this process from all the things that I've learned my entire life to combine it into one, cohesive piece. And it's like, you have to do this full time. And
it's amazing, your journey, because what it is that you're actually doing is you're manufacturing almost the pieces in order to paint with them. It's sculpture and painting.
Yeah, it combines my love of sculpture, painting, and photography into one piece. I hand sculpt all the masters. And so to conceptualize the piece, I have to figure out what the image is and what it's going to be made out of, and then combine those into a fully interactive piece.
What are you starting with? Are you starting with like clay in order to sculpt advanced Play-Doh? I mean, like, what is it?
Pretty much, yeah.
What are you working with?
It's an oil-based clay, usually, or wax-based. And I sculpt all the masters, little tools like dental tools. And a lot of them I make myself, because you can't buy some of the tools that I need for, especially the fine detail work. And everything's individually sculpted. And then I make my own silicone molds, actually hand mix my own silicone. And then when the casting process starts, all the colors are hand matched. So on a black and white piece, it can be like 20, 30 shades of gray. And on a color portrait, you're looking at 50, 60 different colors that I have to actually hand match in batch and cast, so nothing's painted.
You're extraordinary. The other thing is that you were deaf. So I don't know if your vision maybe got enhanced because of the fact that you didn't have your hearing. They sometimes say that. Like if you lose one of your senses, your other senses try to make up for it.
Right.
And so tell us about that. When did you have a loss of hearing?
So I was born practically deaf, and they didn't realize that. I was the second child in the 70s. And so I didn't start talking until I was about 3. And they didn't really question that. They question it now, but not then. And so they realized that I couldn't hear, and I was suffering from ear infections almost constantly, and my ears bled, and so I have naturally a weird threshold for pain, again, because I never complained, and so they didn't know that there was this issue, and so my hearing sort of ebbed and flowed. Some days it was nothing, some days it was a little bit better, especially when I was younger, but I didn't regain normal hearing until I was in my 20s.
Until you were 20, in your 20s.
Which is kind of weird because
and it was basically because you met someone whose dad invented I guess a pharmaceutical item that helps you clear up the infection. Well, I'm like paraphrasing it all, but okay.
That was sort of after the fact. So my art teacher from junior high helped get me into college, and because my family couldn't do it, and so she sort of mentored me and got me into school, and I was studying overseas, studying theater and art, and she wouldn't let me go unless I could hear. And so we did all the tests and all of that, and they found out it really was just an inner ear infection that pretty much spanned my entire life. And it was 5 pills in 5 days that restored my hearing to almost 90%.
It's a miracle.
Yeah,
really, I mean, that's amazing.
Crazy.
That is such an amazing journey. Plus, you came from very sad, meager means, right? Okay. And not sad, but just meager. Like, very, you grew up without having like that formal, like you didn't, all of a sudden, you're like the 5th generation artist and you've got all these gallery connections, and that hasn't been your path. You've done this day by day and just keep working.
That's right.
So wonderful.
From a small town in Wisconsin to living in New York. Yeah.
You have tons of celebrities now. You have tons of commissions and they all love your work. How does that feel for you that you have, like, I don't know, like you're the talk of the town kind of?
It's weird.
Okay.
I mean, it's funny to say, but it is. It's not overwhelming. It's just odd because it's not something that I was told I'd be able to do. And everything was that way. You'd never be able to go to college. You'll never be able to hear. You weren't born into the right family to be able to do certain things. And this was reinforced. It was even reinforced in school. Even by the art teachers that I had early on, saying, well, you're good, but it doesn't matter. It's not like you'll be able to do anything with it. And so that defiance, natural defiance of, I don't believe you, and I will prove you wrong, it just fed into that. And it's like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, watch me.
Yeah. And so it's vindication, I think, some of it, and it's fun.
I'm really happy to know you. I'm so glad that you opened the door that day because it opened up my eyes also in a whole new way to a different type of art, and it's mesmerizing. The piece that you brought here today, as we're wrapping up, is the Franks, right? Yep. So tell us about this particular piece.
So the family contacted me and they wanted a portrait for their parents, and it was for their 160th birthday. So they celebrated together. They both turned 80, and they said, we want the story of their life represented in a photo. And so they gave me lists of things that they love doing, travel, philanthropic sort of activities, their companies, everything about them. And so I spent months just sort of sculpting all these pieces and sort of placing them and created the portrait from that.
I know. I wish I'm trying with the cameras that we have, because we do have beautiful cameras, to do this justice. But I mean, people might just have to go to your gallery to see your work, right? So you're in Port Washington.
Correct.
And but you do travel. You have art shows all over the United States, and your items, somebody can commission a piece, or you do have some things. And you also have smaller pieces. So if somebody wanted to like start out as a collector and then go to, what's the largest piece that you've ever worked with?
I think it was the piece I did for CarMax.
Okay.
And it's the reason why I have the gallery studio right now, sort of combo, is that it was too big for me to build. And so just by luck, this building came available. And CarMax wanted a piece that was 30 feet long by 14 feet tall, and it contains over 40,000 Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars in it. And they wanted it for their opening because they opened a facility on Long Island, and I was like, sure, I can do that. So, why not?
I can do that.
Why not?
Just say yes and figure it out.
Absolutely.
That's always worked for me, Kevin, right? I just say,
it's the only way to do it. It puts that fear into you, and you have to figure it out. And so that was kind of fun. That's probably the largest physical piece that I've had.
And you made Barbie, a portrait of Barbie, and you did it with lipsticks, but you're actually making each of those shapes to look like lipsticks.
That's true. I sculpted lipsticks for Estee Lauder and Avon at one point, and so it was kind of nice to go back to that, because I had the idea years ago to do a Barbie portrait and do this sort of idea of beauty and perceived beauty out of a beauty item, sort of a meta piece. And it just finally made sense now with all the interest in the movie, and I was like, I have to build this now. And so I sat down and sculpted about 6-7 different lipstick bullets, and created the portrait from there. I think that was about 42 different colors that I had to cast for it. But
so you are clever and you are witty. And how many pieces do you know how many pieces are in this again?
This one I think is, I'd have to check the list. I think it's about 25,000.
25,000 pieces. Yeah. Congratulations. You're just amazing. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that our journey has connected and we're going to be friends for a really long time. And
absolutely.
Continued success to you. So
thank you.
Way to go, Kevin. Really, truly way to go. His work is extraordinary. Please follow him on all the socials. And if you're able to go see his gallery, go. If you're someone that wants to follow and pursue art in your journey, just do it. I mean, Kevin did it. I just got an easel. I'm going to start painting again, and I haven't been painting for a really long time. So we support you and we celebrate your journey as well. Thanks for watching.
Well, whether it's a gummy bear chandelier or a portrait made of lipsticks, our next guest's artistic flair has landed his work on TV shows and caught the eye of celebrity admirers.
What a talent. Kevin Champeny is the man behind the masterpieces, and he joins us now from New York. Kevin, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Your mosaics are not only unique, they are huge. So how did you come about creating art like this?
Well, the idea I wanted was to combine my love of drawing, sculpting, and photography into one cohesive piece that was fully interactive, that allowed the viewer pretty much to be able to define it themselves. Because you have to walk up to see what the image is made out of and walk away to see what the image is. So it combined everything into one cohesive piece.
But Kevin, you had such a great job. You know, you were in the aerospace industry full time. Your parents would have been very happy with that. And then you've switched to become an artist. What made you, lean into that?
Well, it was kind of interesting. So I was putting graphics on someone's airplane, and he was asking me how I became an airplane mechanic. And I laughed. I said, well, I'm not. I'm actually a sculptor. And I've worked behind the scenes for years doing different projects. And we found out that we were actually neighbors. And so we went to lunch, and come to find out, he loved the work that I was doing, and I'd never really shown it. And he's like, this is your love. This is your passion. This is what you should be doing. And we became business partners about 2 or 3 weeks later.
Wow.
I just sort of said, gotta be it.
Well, I guess in both fields you need to be absolutely meticulous and patient. So how do you choose the subjects for your work?
It's interesting. I've had these ideas for years, and I keep a notebook, and every time I come up with something, I write it down. And for a lot of them, I just didn't either have the skill set or the ability to even create the projects, and now I do. So now I'm going through this list and going, oh, now I can do this. Now I can build this. And I have sort of the idea sort of in my head of how I could make it work now.
Well, I mean, we're seeing some of the stuff which is amazing. The Marilyn Monroe made of lipstick. That Taylor Swift you've got behind you there, if people can't see it, but as you go further into it, it's made from like, I don't know, millions of little cats that you've done yourself. I mean, has Taylor seen this? This is unbelievable. We're seeing it on screen now.
I don't know if she has. I kind of hope she does. I think it's a wonderful representation of her and her love of cats, and I think it's a good piece. So hopefully she has. I know people around her have, but I don't know if she has.
Wait, what did you make Donald Trump out of?
Donald Trump is part of the Defiance series, so that's 10,000 middle fingers.
So, how are they selling all the time? They must be going, finger over fist out the door.
The one that you just showed is actually the 7th iteration of that piece.
Wow. And how long does it take you to do a big one like that?
It ranges. It can be a couple months all the way to a year. The most complicated one took an entire year to complete.
Gosh.
You are just a master craftsman.
Amazing. Well, it's lovely to chat. Congratulations on your great work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll chat again soon.
To order in advance.
I know, incredible.
Incredible work.
What would they make you out of? Just coffee.
Just coffee. Little coffee cups.
Perfect.
Actually, that's not a bad one.
That's pretty great. Yeah. Okay, still to come this morning. Take that.
His pieces look like beautiful paintings, like this rose, skull, And fish.
Very nice, but look closer, and the detail is about 500, even thousands of mini tiny sculptures he makes by hand to create these amazing mosaics.
Please welcome artist Kevin Champeny.
Hey.
How are you?
Come in.
Kelly, pleasure. Good to see you.
Now, I remember
Amazing.
I was scanning through Instagram one day, and I was just like, just killing time, and I came across your work, and I was like, this guy is wild, because it looks like a regular painting here, and you get closer, and these are just little tiny little roses. Every single one is an integral detail.
All hand cast, all made one by one and applied one by one.
So each of these little pieces is one by one.
Yep, absolutely.
How long did this take to make?
The smaller ones can take a couple weeks, the larger ones upwards to a year.
Wow.
And how do you visualize it? Because you have to go, you go close and then go back and forth.
Well, actually, my eyesight I have a problem with it, which actually helps my artwork. So when I take my glasses off, these pieces look like they look to you 10 feet away.
Oh, okay.
And so I can actually build them up close, and I don't have to do the walk back. And,
wow.
That's really good. It helps.
It absolutely does.
Would you mind walking us through your
pieces?
Yes,
please.
Yeah, this is a little faded, and it's actually based on a much larger piece that I have, which is about 5 feet long.
Wow.
And this is about 38 shades of red, and it started with white, and each row is in a gradual change.
Wow.
So it's 38 different colors. So there's about 800 castings in this piece.
So how long would this take you?
A couple of weeks, because the sculpting process takes a while, and the mold process, and actually applying, that's what sort of takes a long time.
Cool.
To hand glue each and every single piece.
How about this one over here?
So this is sweet faded. And so this is actually made out of gummy bears.
I was about to ask, are those gummy bears?
Are they real gummy bears?
No, they're all hand cast out of urethane. So it's a 2-part plastic, and they're all hand dyed. I don't paint anything. So everything is actually dyed to the exact color it needs to be before it ever goes on the piece.
This is the kind of artwork I love, because it's living. I mean, it's just one of those things, it never gets, if you see a painting, it's beautiful, you can enjoy it. But when you can find different dimensions to it, that's when it's really special, because it just never gets old.
Right, and that's what I do with a lot of these pieces, that I just give them a title. And then I allow the viewer to be an active participant.
Absolutely.
And so I never define anything. I allow the person who's actually seeing it to use their life experience and what they've dealt with in their entire life to look at these pieces and go, oh, that's what it means to me.
And if it's real gummy bears, you can have art and a snack.
Well, there you go. Absolutely.
And you only recently became a professional artist, right?
That's true, in the last couple of years.
That's so wonderful.
This is the grand finale piece, right?
Absolutely. So this one, no one has seen yet, so I'm actually introducing it on the show.
Yes!
Oh my God.
Look at all of these pieces.
Wow.
So this is called an apple a day. This has over 10,000 pieces in it. And so all the original candy was hand sculpted, and then I made my own molds and cast every single piece one by one.
It's incredible. Incredible. So how long did this take to create?
So this took a little over a month, but I had all the molds ready, and that was about 4 months in preparation to do all the sculpting and molding. So it was about a month, start to finish, to get everything on there.
How do you? I know that you have the vision. It works, but it's just amazing to see. Like, oh, I'm going to put this here, this here, this here, and together it's going to be this incredible piece.
I work from a lot of photographs and paintings that I make, and a lot of it just comes out of habit. I mean, it's sort of how I see the world. I see everything sort of broken down in bits, and I sort of have an idea of what these colors will do together once you start walking away from it, and just from doing it for so many years.
How much would this one go for?
More than a pack of lifesavers.
Absolutely, my pieces actually range anywhere from $3,000 to $75,000 at this point.
Wow.
So it really depends.
It's amazing.
And I've been doing shows all over the country, and as I do more, it just gets a little bit crazy.
Well, we're big fans. This is really cool. Thank you for bringing this.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.